is August 24th, 410 AD, 3 hours before dawn. The Salarian Gate, one of the great fortified entrances in the walls of Rome, swings open from the inside. Not broken, not breached, opened. On the other side, the Visigoth army of Alaric has been waiting outside the walls of Rome for months. Tens of thousands of warriors who have tried twice before to take this city and failed. Tonight they do not need to fight their way in. Someone has done it for them. The person who opened the gate was a slave. Within hours, the greatest city in the Western world is burning. 1519, the year that should not... Wait, 410, the number, the year, the night that ended 800 years of Roman invincibility in a single act of betrayal by someone the city had treated as property. To understand why 410 shook the ancient world to its foundations, you have to understand what Rome meant. Not just politically, not just militarily, but psychologically, to everyone alive in the 5th century AD. Rome was not just a city, it was an idea, the eternal city, Urbs Aeterna. For 800 years, since the Gauls sacked it briefly in 390 BC, no foreign army had entered Rome. Not Hannibal, who came closer than anyone and turned back. Not the Germanic tribes who pressed constantly at the borders. Not the Parthians, not the Persians, not any of the powers that had risen and fallen against the empire over 8 centuries. Rome had survived everything. Rome always survived. This was not just history, it was theology. Rome's invincibility was considered divine. God protected Rome because Rome was the center of civilization and the seat of the Christian Church. The city had walls, the Aurelian walls built in the 3rd century, 12 miles of fortified stone encircling the entire city, 20 feet thick in places, with 383 towers and 18 main gates. They had never been breached by an enemy. They had stood for over a century as the physical expression of everything Rome believed about itself. If Rome could fall, what could not fall? The answer, when 410 arrived, was nothing. To understand how Alaric got to the gates of Rome, you have to understand what had happened to the Roman Empire in the century before 410. The empire had split, east and west, in 395 AD. The Eastern Empire, centered on Constantinople, was wealthy, stable, administratively competent. The Western Empire, centered on Rome, was the opposite. Barbarian peoples had been absorbed into the Roman military in enormous numbers, not as conquered subjects, but as federated allies, fighting under Roman command, but maintaining their own leadership and identity. The Visigoths were one of these peoples. Alaric himself had served as a Roman military commander. He had fought for Rome. He had been promised land and payment by the Roman government for his service. The Roman government had not paid him. When the Western Roman government broke its promises to Alaric, it created the man who would destroy it. Alaric's demands were not unreasonable by the standards of the time. He wanted land in the Balkans for his people to settle. He wanted a senior military command in the Roman army. He wanted the payment he had been promised. The Western Roman court, operating from the safety of Ravenna, protected by swamps that made it nearly impregnable, refused him. Repeatedly. The man making these decisions was a court official named Olympius, who had outmaneuvered the one general capable of stopping Alaric, a half-Vandal Roman commander named Stilicho, and had him executed in 408 AD. With Stilicho gone, Rome had no military answer to Alaric. It only had walls, and Alaric had patience. He besieged Rome twice before 410. Both times the city survived by buying him off, stripping its temples of gold and silver, melting down statues, paying whatever Alaric demanded to make him withdraw. The Senate reportedly asked what they would have left after paying. Alaric's answer was recorded by the ancient historian Zosimus. He said, "Your lives. Rome paid. Alaric withdrew. Twice. and twice the imperial court in Ravenna, safe behind its swamps, watching Rome humiliate itself to survive, refused to honor the political agreements that would have ended the crisis permanently. The Emperor Honorius, who would reign for 28 years and accomplish almost nothing of value, reportedly received the news of Rome's fall by mistaking it for news about a favorite chicken he kept named Roma. The story may be apocryphal, it is nonetheless the most accurate portrait of his reign. The third siege was different. By August 410, Alaric had lost patience entirely with the imperial court in Ravenna, which had arrested and killed his brother-in-law during negotiations, breaking yet another agreement. He moved on Rome with no intention of negotiating this time, and then, on the night of August 24th, someone inside the city opened the Salarian Gate. Ancient sources disagree on exactly who and why. Some say it was slaves acting on their own initiative, seizing the chaos of the moment to strike against their masters. Some say it was noble women, possibly from the household of a sympathetic Roman aristocrat, who had been communicating with Alaric's forces and opened the gate deliberately. Some say Alaric simply bribed someone. The truth, buried in contradictory ancient accounts, is that a city of perhaps 800,000 people had been under siege long enough that someone inside decided the walls were the wrong side to be on. The Visigoths entered Rome and sacked it for 3 days. The sack of 410 was, by ancient standards, relatively restrained. Alaric gave explicit orders that churches, particularly St. Peter's Basilica and the Lateran, were to be respected as places of sanctuary. Anyone who reached a church was to be protected. The Visigoths were themselves Christian, albeit of a different theological tradition than Roman Catholics. They looted gold, silver, silk, and treasures accumulated over centuries. They took hostages, including Galla Placidia, the sister of the Western Emperor Honorius. They killed people as armies always did, but they did not level the city. They did not burn it to the ground. After 3 days, Alaric led his army south. He died shortly after, somewhere in southern Italy, of a fever. His army diverted a river, buried him beneath it, then diverted the river back so no one would find the grave. The man who sacked Rome disappeared into the Italian earth, much like the man who conquered the world in 1206 had disappeared into the Mongolian steppe. The physical damage to Rome was real, but not catastrophic. The psychological damage was total and permanent. When the news reached Saint Augustine in North Africa, he was in the middle of writing what would become one of the most influential books in the history of Western thought. He had been planning a different book entirely. The sack of 410 changed everything he was writing. The pagans of the Roman world were saying that Rome had fallen because it abandoned its old gods for Christianity. Augustine spent the next 14 years writing his response, The City of God. His argument was that earthly cities always fall, only the city of God is eternal. Rome was never meant to be eternal. Only God is eternal. It was the most consequential theological reorientation in Western history, produced directly by the fall of a city that was supposed to be invincible. So, what is 410? It is the year that proves the most dangerous thing any civilization can believe about itself, that it is eternal, that it cannot fall, that its walls are high enough, its history long enough, its God protective enough that the rules which applied to every other civilization in human history do not apply to it. Rome believed this. Rome had 800 years of evidence for it, and one slave at a gate, or one noblewoman, or one bribed guard, the sources do not agree, undid 800 years of evidence in a single night. The city did not fall because the Visigoths were stronger. It fell because someone inside chose to open the door. Empires are not destroyed from outside. They are unlocked from within. The dark ages that followed were not caused by the barbarians pressing at the borders. They were caused by the centuries of internal decay that made one night at one gate decisive. Alaric did not end Rome. Rome had been ending itself for 100 years before Alaric arrived. He just walked through the door that was already open. 410. The number that ended the ancient world. The number that began the medieval world. The number that proved that no city is eternal, no wall is permanent, no civilization is immune to the oldest and simplest mechanism of its own destruction. The moment when someone on the inside decides to open the gate. If this story made you think, leave a comment. Was the slave who opened the gate a traitor or a revolutionary? Was Rome's fall inevitable, or could it have been stopped? Subscribe to the Vault of Numbers. Every week, one number, one story history forgot to tell you. The next number in the vault? 79. A city lived in the shadow of a mountain for centuries. Nobody warned them. Nobody left. Then one afternoon, the mountain answered. The vault remains open.